So this has been a long time coming, like many years in the making.
Like 5 years to be exact. It was back in 2019 when we first came up with the idea, and our lives have changed so much in that time frame.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a daughter. I lived in Philly previously, so I moved back to DC. I had a job, left the job, bought a house, moved to a different state after DC. So there have been a lot of changes, and you have many to speak of as well.
Yeah, so when we first came up with this idea, we were living in DC, and I moved to New York. A whole pandemic happened.
Yeah.
I got a husband.
A whole husband.
That wasn't the plan, but just kidding. And then, yeah, I moved. I got a husband. I got a new job. I left my job, and then I got a new job. So a lot has happened, but the question that I must ask, let's just kick it off. Why'd you quit?
Why did you quit?
Because of you.
And there is some truth to that. But I guess we'll take it back, right, to the careers that we had before that we absolutely loved, and it was a whirlwind.
Yes.
So you worked at ABC News.
This time last year, my contract was up, and this was going to be my third 3-year contract with ABC News.
Third, yeah.
I was an anchor for the network, and I was a correspondent for programs like Good Morning America, World News Tonight, Nightline, pretty much every ABC News program. But most of you guys probably know me from the early morning news show, World News Now. I anchored that for 2.5 years. And I was ready to re-sign. I mean, there was a delay in my contract, and I was just waiting for it. But then, look at the universe. Look at God. Something happened, and I was like, wait a second. And for the first time in my career, I questioned, was this for me? Which my first thought was like, are you crazy? Like, this is your dream job. How is it that you're even questioning if this is for you? I decided at 16 years old that I was gonna be a journalist. And part of it was because I used to watch the news with my parents. My parents are African parents. They love them some news, right? They'll be there watching every evening like they're about to go make some foreign policy decisions after.
They got to go make a live report.
What is going on with Russia? Okay, Mr. Putin. No, they would watch every night, and it was something that I started bonding with my dad about, right? So he loved him some world news, and I would watch it with him. In college, my dad passed away. And that was the first time in my life that I experienced loss. But it was also someone who was a pillar in my life. So when I say it shook me to my core, because I had no idea what grieving was like, what was going to happen from then on. And so I remember thinking the only thing I can do is to continue what he started. I mean, my parents came to this country to give me a better life, right? They put so much into setting my sister and I up to succeed. And so I was like, I have to make sure that that's not in vain. So I'm gonna grab this baton and keep going. What I loved about being a journalist was the fact that you get to meet so many people from different walks of life. You get to tell their stories. And I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. And then I said I was gonna do it before the age of 30. Why 30? I have no idea.
Isn't it funny how we just throw out arbitrary numbers?
Listen.
But you did it by, and yes, you did it by.
No, I threw out 30 because I was like, let's just spice it up a little bit. Let's up the ante.
A little fire, yeah.
Add a little fire. I did it by 27.
And it is?
And it is being a network news correspondent. Yeah. I remember my first time reporting for World News, right? This is the program that my dad loved. And when you sign off, you say, Mona Kosar Abdi, ABC News, New York. And I remember when I signed off, I just started crying.
Wow.
I just started crying because it was almost like a relief, like I did it. I said I was gonna do something. I could only imagine how proud he would have been. But it was also bittersweet because the one person that I wanted to see me do that was not here to see it.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, I could even, some of the career highlights is like, I got to anchor Good Morning America.
I remember that.
Like,
yeah.
And I will never forget when they're counting you down.
Ooh, that countdown is...
Jeanette's like, I'm shaking him up.
Did you get nervous? Were you nervous?
I wasn't. And I don't know why. Because something, especially that you dream of and that you want, you would think like, oh my God.
This is the moment, yeah.
I felt so comfortable.
Wow.
And I remember they count you down. And then you say, Good Morning, America. I'm like, y'all don't understand. Like, my people came 3 to 5 business days ago. Like, we just came to this country.
Yeah.
And to say that and to be able to wake up people from all over the country, like, none of that was taken lightly. Mm-hmm. But as you know, like with every job, oh, especially when you get to the top, like it's competitive, right? And it's demanding. And so there were moments where, for example, like I mentioned, I worked on that overnight show for 2.5 years. I was
coming
going
in at
11 p.m.
Yeah.
Coming out at 4 a.m. for 2.5 years, sometimes staying till 6 a.m., sometimes doing Good Morning America and staying till 8 a.m. And it was hard, I'm not gonna lie. And also like when I became a correspondent, I would have a go bag by the door because at any moment, they're gonna tell you to go to this state, that state, some breaking news is happening somewhere in the country. Right. You grab your bag, you go for who knows how long. And so with that, I mean, also as I mentioned, like at the top, it gets competitive. And there were some opportunities that I felt I deserved, that I got passed up for. And then there were some outside opportunities that were amazing that I was getting presented and that were more in line with what I wanted to do. I'm allowed to have new dreams. I'm allowed to grow. I'm allowed to have new interests. I'm allowed to pivot. Hell, I'm allowed to start over if I want to, right? And so I remember bringing that to you. This is where you come in. Not leaving you out. I remember coming to you and being like, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm on the fence about. And you said, because I was like, maybe I just signed one more contract. Maybe I just do it. Like, it was almost like, it felt safe. Out of fear, I was like, maybe I just sign one more contract and like, we'll visit this later. And you were like, is there anything that is going to change about your circumstance, about how you feel, that you won't be in the same spot you are today 3 years later, just 3 years delayed?
Right.
But also maybe not having the same opportunities that are being presented to you now.
Yeah. I said, is what you will have gained from these next 3 years in a new contract greater than what you will have turned down? And you were already turning down.
And y'all, that shook me to my core. I was like,
I wasn't sure.
I was silent. I was like, damn. All right. But what I wasn't expecting is that I would look up. I can't have an original moment, girl. I looked up.
You can't have nothing.
No. And you're like, oh, I didn't tell you. I quit you. Oh.
Yeah.
So what happened?
So,
because you were secure, job security. You were solid.
One thing that I hadn't shared was I was given the opportunity for a national show. And life is so interesting because this, many would argue, this is it. It's kind of like dangling that shiny thing in front of you that the little, Jeannette or Mona would have always wanted. Yeah. And it's a test of, what do you know your purpose? And for me, my main things were spending more time with my family. It was flexibility. And it was the opportunity to just do me. You know what I mean? I think people don't realize when you work for, a corporation like we do, there are a lot of limitations on what you can and can't do. Understandably so, a lot of it is ethics and maintaining objectivity. All that to say, I knew immediately, I can't do this. I can't do this show. You know what I mean? It would totally not, the money is great, but it doesn't align. My mom said it the best way. She said, you're literally doubling down on what you don't want.
Yeah. Like, this sounds like a plan.
Right. And that, I think, sometimes life will test you.
Yeah.
And it's great because it lets you know, it reaffirms, no, you know what you're doing. And despite the greatest test, you're willing to stick to what makes you happy.
So how do you feel? It's been a few months now.
I feel I'm so grateful for that chapter. And I always tell Robert, were it not for that, I wouldn't be here. I'm very well aware of that. I miss the viewers. I miss waking up with them in the morning. When I tell you I loved my job.
Yeah.
I remember, so I worked in Philly for some time at the ABC station there for about 4.5 years. I reported and then anchored. And I was long distance throughout all that time with my husband. So I moved to Philly 2 months before we got married. And we did 4.5 years long distance, which is 0 out of 10. 2 out of 10, don't recommend. All right.
What's the 2?
2 is that you got a job. It's just far.
Thank you, Lord.
Right. We're being grateful. And I finally came back to DC. And, with this business, it's hard for opportunities to come by because there's a select few, especially when you're looking for a very specific position. And the opportunity came up. I jumped at it. Initially, I didn't think I was going to get it. I wasn't even going to apply. I have a track record of doing this, by the way.
I'm just going to cancel myself out.
Right. Like, I'll do you the favor. And my agent said, well, why don't you just go for it? The worst they can say is no. And I applied, and I ended up getting it. And it was the morning anchor position at the Fox station in DC, the local station. When I tell you I would wake up at 3 a.m, go to work at 4, drive by the monuments, and it was just a pinch me moment every single morning. I remember because I would anchor for 5 hours straight. And it can be a little taxing, especially mentally, because you're doing a lot of live interviews. You might interview the governor, then, a mayor, then Ashanti. Like, it runs the gamut. And you want to appear well-read and informed on the topic because you're asking on behalf of the viewer. But despite how tiring it could be on some days, it was so fulfilling. And in the moment, even when I was exhausted, I just remember thinking, I would tell my husband, like, Robert, like, can you believe, like, I have this job? And I always say, waking someone up in the morning, being a part of their morning routine, for me, that morning time is so sacred. And for someone to choose to watch you, to walk them through that morning routine, for me, was just a blessing. So I say all that to say that throughout all of that all of that time, I was simultaneously turning down other opportunities, outside opportunities, that were more and more aligning with what I wanted long-term. Mm-hmm. And I had not considered really for more than a second leaving up until a few months before, which is why I didn't tell you when I told you my advice.
Surprise!
Exactly. I looked back like, wait a minute, that works for me too. And I remember the moment it hit me. It was when I had kind of proposed a litmus test for myself. And I said, if I can't find a way to do this opportunity, then I might have to walk away. But I thought, surely we can find some kind of compromise. And we weren't able to reach that. And it hit me like a lightning bolt. I was like, I have to leave. I told my agent that. I just knew in that moment, something that seconds before, it was just like the furthest thing that I would have done. And this was a few months before I said I was leaving and I was ready to walk away, which it's funny. The people who know you most, similar to how I was with you, it was like, it's about time.
Yeah.
Right. We were just waiting.
Yes.
And I should say the outside opportunities, aside from giving me flexibility to spend more time with my daughter, it was also gonna provide me with the opportunity to provide for my family, immediate and extended, in ways that have never been done for us, right? Like we both are first generation Americans. Most of my family is in the Dominican Republic, and I've always wanted to pour back into the people who poured into me. Yeah. And I knew that this next chapter could be transformative for me and for them, and honestly, the causes that I care about. But that it would still include, which was the best part of it, the ability to still tell stories, right? Because that's the thing that brought us to this platform in the first place, speaking of news, which, by the way, and you know this, my dad loved news. We used to watch Primer Impacto, Univision with Jorge Ramos and María Elena Salinas.
Shout out. How you say shout out in Spanish?
That's a great question. Couldn't even
Saludos.
Saludos. Que lo que. And my dad loved it. And he was very informed. He was a history buff. And for me, I saw firsthand the importance of news when it comes to, in my case, keeping my parents abreast and aware of what was going on in their community and back home. So it was, for my goals, I reached the top of the mountain. And it was very, very fulfilling. And the way I looked at it was, what mountain can I scale next?
I'm excited to see what is to come.
You know what we should mention? There are some wild stories that have also, I think, in a really sweet way, become such a part of who we are as journalists, as people. Yeah. And that's the lead up to reaching what we call the top of the mountain.
I was going to say, because you're like, you reach the mountaintop and it's, where you started? It wasn't the mountaintop.
What did Drake say?
It was started from the bottom.
Yes. Yeah,
and we were there.
Yeah. There was one time so you are reporting rain, sleet, snow, breaking news, all of it. And there was one time they sent me out. They were like, hey, we're going to have you cover the Coon Festival.
Uh-huh.
I was like, excuse me, what? They were like, the Raccoon Festival. They call it the Coon Festival. I was like, okay. So it doesn't really make it much better because they cook raccoons.
I have 1,000 follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Why? First of all, who came up with the nickname?
Listen.
One. Second,
right.
who decided that? Like, is it the national animal or is it like?
I mean, clearly it's not because you're killing your national animal. It's actually a rite of passage for politicians. Like Bill Clinton went to the Raccoon Festival. And
we're going to use the full name.
Mike Huckabee. Yeah, we're going to use the full name, the full government name. And I went. It was like an hour and a half away from Little Rock. And it is like a feast of raccoons. It's like a huge room full of people.
Oh, they kill it.
And they don't. I never told you that part.
No, I thought.
No,
I thought this was like a Punxsutawney feel, like we kicking it with the raccoon.
They would love to be Punxsutawney, but absolutely not. This is where they meet, their fate. So, so the thing was, they grill it, cook it, whatever it is, and as a reporter, you got to get involved. Yeah. So I had to eat it.
You ate the raccoon?
I had to, what do you? But it was very gamey.
Is it like
very chewy?
Like, how do we eat it?
No,
is
it's
it
just
seasoned.
This is Arkansas.
I will tell you,
just you just get into.
You can season raccoon. That's like.
But yeah, but those are just the stories that you cover, right? Like another one was like the Razorback mascot. It's I guess it's a pig. I had to feed it an apple, like mouth to mouth.
Jeannette, did you know how to say no? I
wanted to get promoted.
And so what you want me to do?
Right.
You want me to feed it?
That's all. Yeah. But we all have stories like that. Yeah. And you look back on it. I say you look back on it in a way where it's like,
it's hilarious.
You did what you had to do.
Yeah.
And you use those skills. There are skills that are developed in those situations to get to where ultimately we got to.
Yeah.
Speaking of, though, skills when it comes to breaking news, reporting on, writing stories, anchoring.
Wait, do you remember your first time when you went live?
I do. And my photographer thought it would be a good idea to tell me 5 minutes before my live shot how many people watch. When I tell you, my knees almost gave out. I was terrified.
What you mean, 20,000? Now you look back and you're like, it wasn't even that many people.
Right. But no, the first time is terrifying to most people. How was it for you?
Oh, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
I think especially because I'm a perfectionist, and so I was like, you cannot stumble. You cannot. But I also, my first time going live was a snowstorm. I had never seen snow
I was
before.
just going to say.
So I was like, cool, I got this. And so I'm outside, and immediately I'm like, oh, you could feel snow. It was that bad. I was supposed to tell you how the roads look, and I'm just like, it's coming from the sky. What is going on? And so, of course, they love making fun of me because they're like, oh, the San Diego girl or whatever. And I was like, yeah, we don't have this over there.
Oh, the snow is cold?
Yes.
What you mean?
Oh, no, I'll tell you why the snow is cold. I bought my first coat before I moved to Lynchburg. I never owned a coat. Wow. So I bought my first coat, and I didn't realize there's levels to this, right? There's coats, then there's like winter coats, and then there's parkas.
Right.
I had a like little fashion coat that I had and some little riding boots that were cute and in style at the time. I didn't realize that there is no insulation. And so I'm out here. I always forget my gloves too because I was not used to it.
And you're holding like the metal mic.
Exactly. So I'm over here live. And I'm like, okay, I got this. Like today there are, and I would look over at the camera guy and he's like, flurries. I'm like, today there are flurries. You need to watch the streets. Like I was done. I went right back into the newsroom and I asked one of the main anchors, I was like, how did I do? How did I do? She was like, why were you smiling the whole time? I was like, because there was a camera. Like, what was I supposed to do? And I looked back and the entire time I was just like,
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah,
I'm just happy to be included. But no, those times are they're great. I will say, speaking of being like, nervous or scared, breaking news, child.
Breaking news.
It would have me up at night. Like I would be like, can the whole state of Arkansas behave? There's no breaking news. Because the thing about breaking news, and this is why I have so much respect for anchors and reporters, but the thing about breaking news, obviously you want to be factually accurate. Sometimes you're working with 2 or 3 facts, but you got to fill time, 15, 20 minutes. And you want it to be smooth. You don't want long pauses. And you also want to draw on, what you're seeing, who, what, when, where, all of that to say. I would come into work like on the verge of panic attacks because if there was breaking news, I was nervous to do it. So what I decided to do was volunteer for it. Because I was like, I can't live my life like this.
That's smart.
I'm like losing my appetite.
You could have quit.
Right. But it's like that idea of like facing fear head on and not allowing something to take control of you. And I made it my mission. Like I am going to be, the best there is, in my mind when it comes to breaking news. And it helped a lot.
What she doesn't tell y'all is the breaking news as it's happening. Like it comes through a police scanner. There's an assignment editor who's listening to a police scanner and all they hear is shots fired on 23rd and 5th. And so they send you there, and all you know when you get to the scene, because they want you live right when you get to the scene, is somebody shooting. That's it. They shooting.
Yeah.
And then you get the anchor tosses to you and is like, Jeannette Reyes is on 23rd and 5th, where there are reports of shots fired. Jeannette, we know that they're evacuating this building. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what's going on? Nah, man, because you just said everything. All of it. You just said every fact I had and the ones I gave you from the scene.
Yeah.
So you just want to stand there and be like, that's right.
But you got to talk, right? Like, so what you do is like, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are the neighbors saying? While not speculating, right? And not drawing conclusions to facts that haven't been confirmed. But it's a great learning experience. And when you know how to talk about very few details and fill time, it's a great skill to have, especially when it comes to small talk. Yeah. I can talk about anything.
The time.
Yeah. Would I do it again if it got me to where I got? Sure. But I'd been like, is this the only route? Is there a detour? But no, I'm grateful for it.
What I do love is that you and I had completely different routes because you say you stumbled upon your opportunities. Yeah. I was just like, everything was calculated and everything was like, I had a lot of thoughts over it and a lot of anxiety over it. But we both ended up in similar situations and getting our dream jobs, quote unquote, our dream jobs. And then I love that at the same time, we walked away from our dream jobs.
Yeah. We made it to the mountaintop and we were like, what other mountain can we scale?
Well, that's my cue.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So that is off the record and on the record. And here's the thing. This is a group chat. And this is what we talk a lot about in the group chat. We are honest. We kind of look at the headlines and whatever's trending. And oftentimes, as with many of you all, there are things you can relate to. And the people who know you are in the group chat and you share those experiences. And we want you all to join the group chat.
Yes. The part of the group chat is me DMing you while you're texting me, and I'm like, answer my DM. You're like, answer my text. And if you're not communicating on 4 different platforms, are you really friends like, at this point? But yes, we do want to open up the group chat to you guys for you guys to go off and join the conversation.
Absolutely. If you, we'd love for you to follow us on the Off the Record podcast on Instagram, and follow us on our individual platforms, Miss Newslady and
at Mona K. Abdi.
And we would love to continue this conversation with you all. We'll see you in the next episode of Off the Record.
Perfect.
3, 2, 1. So that was Off the Record and On the Record.
And now we are inviting you to join the group chat and go off.
All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1. So 3, 2, 1. That was, am I saying so?
And now we want to invite you to join the group chat and go off.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts, and of course on your YouTube channel. It's our YouTube channel, not theirs. Subscribe.
Because if
Believe
you
in
don't support
yourself.
yourself, who will?
So that was Off the Record and On the Record.
And now we want to invite you to join the group chat and go off.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts, and of course subscribe on our YouTube channel.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Off the Record Podcast.
It's the Off the Record podcast. But, you know. No, it's Off the Record podcast. That's messed up. You were on the roll. And that was Off the Record and On the Record.
And now we want to invite you to join the group chat and go off.
Make sure you subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. It's at Off the Record Podcast.
That's it.
We ain't got nothing else.
That's it. We can cut it there. Yeah.